Wale Adigun, sports journalist, joins us this morning as we talk through the Olympics. Wale, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
I thought you were going to say what's good about the morning.
Yeah, but I mean...
We've moved on.
The tone of your voice is so somber.
Come on, Wale. How are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm great. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm having fun, you know why? Because I was like the proverbial prophet of doom.
Right?
You know? Yeah, predicting we're not going to win a medal.
This.
Yeah, so I'm not happy about it, but it is what it is.
So let's start from the end. What heads should roll? Or should heads roll? Is it a function of heads that were not put in the right place or that were not working well? So let's start from the end, then we'll walk all the way back. Consequences.
Okay, so I think heads should roll. But the way Nigeria is and the way Nigerian sports is, even if heads roll, nothing changes. Under saner climes, I think that the minister should have fallen on his sword, resigned. I know he just became minister like a year ago, right? But that's no excuse. You resign. You fall on your sword even before you come back from Paris. I think that if our sports federation presidents, maybe the FN, were sensible enough, you fall on your sword because this is unacceptable. It's disgraceful. I know this happened in London 2012, right? And nothing happened. But 12 years later, I mean, this is, spend 9 billion, right? We're about to spend another 3 for the Paralympics because it's 12 billion in total and we have nothing to show for it. I think it should roll and it starts from the top. So if the minister cannot fall under his sword, trust me, nobody else will. So even if the minister is not going to fall on his sword, he should be able to look at a few federations who have fallen short and ask very, big questions. And if you can't answer them, then you should go. It's as simple as that. But we don't do that in Nigeria. And like I said, even if that happens, it will be historical. Because ask me which sport administrator in Nigeria or even politician in Nigeria has fallen under his sword and said, because I didn't do well, I am leaving. It doesn't happen.
It's interesting because in his statement, I had to take time to read his statement.
Yeah.
And he talked about the fact that the president was magnanimous enough to release money. That this underwhelming, those were his words, performance are not acceptable. We owe Nigerians an explanation. Who is the we here? And who should be the we here?
It should be them. That's the truth. I mean, 9 billion naira is not small money. I broke it down while getting ready to come on the air, and we took 88 athletes to the Olympics. And if you break down 9 billion naira, that means that each athlete would have at least spent 102 million naira. That means on each athlete you spent over 100 million naira on them. And I think Jamaica probably spent maybe just a paltry of that. Although it's been deemed as a not too good Olympics by Jamaica, but they got a gold, 3 silver and 2 bronze medals. So why have we spent that much? And they said to whom much is given, much is expected.
You're even going too far. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, St. Lucia went to the Olympics with 4 persons, 3 men, 1 lady. St. Lucia is just like the size of OPIC in terms of population, less than 200,000. They went with 4 people. They won gold and a silver. Julian Alfred 100 meters and 200 meters. Just half of OPIC. 9 African teams got medals. What are we missing? I guess that's my question.
Uganda had, I think, a gold and a silver. Botswana also had a gold and silver. Could have been 2. Yep. They missed out on the 4x400. You know, so what we're missing is very simple. We're missing administration. We're also missing the fact that, see, I can blame the administrators, which I've done at the beginning of this program, but we also have to blame the athletes. You have to balance it. We went to this Olympics with elite athletes. We went with Toby Amuson, who's a world record holder, froze on the big stage. We went with Aaron Okodri, world number 19 in table tennis, froze on the big stage.
Who's aging, by the way?
He's aging, I know, he's 38, but Malong is old. Malong is the greatest table tennis player of all time. He still won a gold medal. I know it's Chinese, right? It's a birthright, it's a heritage. But some of our athletes froze on the big stage. I know Favour Philly went through a whole lot with the 100-meter thing, but the 200 meters also she didn't do too well. So some of our athletes also have to answer questions. That's a Brume as well. I mean, how do we have 3 finalists in long jump? 3 out of 12. Americans also have 3 out of 12, and they emerged with a gold and a bronze. So in as much as we can blame the sports minister, the administrators, the sports ministry, we also have to look at our athletes and ask them questions. What happened when you were supposed to deliver on the biggest of stages? So it's a mixed bag. The blame has to go around.
And, you know, women at least showed up to a large extent. And this is not a gender war. I'm not doing that. You know, the Tigers, all of the names you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, we can mention Samuel Ogazi, at least, in the 400
Got to the
meters.
final, yeah.
That's one man out of a lot of other athletes. Fine, the women made a larger chunk of the delegation to the Olympics naturally, so you'd expect that they will come through more when it comes to the finals. But this is where I'm going. So I don't know when we started preparing. It is taken for granted that you start preparing for the next Olympics from the last day of the, like yesterday is when you start preparing for the next Olympics. So were you able to track our preparation? I know it's something we've said a lot of times, but were you able to look through preparations and say, okay, this is where we missed it in terms of preparing for this? We prepare for elections well in Nigeria, but I don't know.
We've already started preparing for the next
elections. Exactly. I don't know what happened with the Olympics.
There's a general saying in sports that to win an Olympic medal, it takes 8 years, not 4. It takes 8. Trinidad Tobago said his plan was never even to win gold in the 200 meters when he beat Noah Lyles. He was planning for a late 2028. And this just came. You know, it's like a bonus to him. It takes 8 years to prepare to win gold medal or win anything on a podium. Anything you get after that is a bonus. But we prepare for 3 months. And the minister will sit down in the hall and assure Nigerians that, see, these athletes, they are going to win gold, they are going to win silver. I think it's balderdash. Yeah, I know you said that for the optics, right? You said that for the PR, but it is not possible. It isn't. They say only a madman does the same thing and is expected. We do the same thing every time. We prepare for the Olympics 3 months. Once we carry these athletes, take them to Germany, take some to Spain, take some to Portugal, and you know, the week of the Olympics, they all arrive at the venue, and we think that we were competing in weightlifting. You know, the Chinese are something else. We were competing in boxing. Went to boxing, the event with 2 boxers. I think it was supposed to be 3. One had issues with doping, Cynthia Ogushemilori, you know, and I went with 2. In wrestling, you know, we're out in the first round of majorly almost all of the events, except for Oboro Dudu, who got into the bronze medal. Even Odoaya Adekore also, you know, fumbled on the big stage. So the question is, when do we start taking preparation, even in football, in everything we do in this Nigeria? So, but we take preparation for granted. In football, a club like Aiba probably wants to play in Egypt and starts going to Egypt maybe 2 days before the game or a day before the game. Preparation has to be ingrained in the way we do things, because all of these countries you've seen have taken a lot of time preparing. Take a look at the mixed relay team of the United States. They are beating. They broke the world record in the heats. If I mention the 4 mixed relay, you won't even know any of them. Yes. But because of the way they've prepared, the strength and depth, everything adds up together. But we don't have that.
So perhaps, as I said, I read the minister's statement. So I'm going to be taking them, not really reading them verbatim. So it looks like in terms of diagnosis, what he said is what you've just repeated. He talked about the federation prioritizing qualification over preparation. And he said this has to change. And then he also talked about that he had an assignment, AFCON, I think African Games and the Olympics, and so many things were in quick succession. So he was wondering, more like, shouldn't that make them to be in the A-game zone rather than feeling overwhelmed by some of these events?
Is he even the NFF president? Minister is not the NFF president. He's only there to just, try to support.
The NFF or the athletics?
I mean, the minister. The minister is not the NFF president. The NFF president should be the one in charge of the AFCON.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. He's saying that, we had the AFCON. All you have to do was just supply funds, through the government. So that is no excuse. Saying that the federations are concerned with qualifying, of course you have to qualify. If you don't play the lottery, you don't win it. If you don't qualify, you cannot participate in these events. And all of these qualifications was also because most of our athletes didn't qualify initially. They had to go through the last the last stages of qualification for them to, make it into Paris. So all of this is no excuse. We have countries who came to these Olympics also not better prepared than they still won medals. Let's be very honest with ourselves. So the minister's epistle on X doesn't justify it. I think he's just trying to, not take the responsibility, not take the can for what has happened, saying I came in 1 year ago now. There's a DG, there is a Director General of the Sports Ministry. What is he doing? He doesn't even take enough of the blame here. Although the problem here is that I also heard the DG also came in 4 weeks ago before the Olympics, because you change DG, you change DG. So it's rinse and repeat. Basically,
it's quite ironic that we're having this conversation on International Youth Day. Majority of people who participate in sports are young people, and this is one of the areas you expect that will. If we're investing well in this, it shows that we're investing in our youth. It's just an obvious thing. If we pay attention to sports, it obviously means we're paying attention to our youth, so it leaves much to be desired. But when you look at nations that are doing well, I see that the US rather, and China were tied gold medal.
Yeah.
But of course, the breaker was the bronze and silver. It looked like China's goal was to just get as much gold as possible to maybe get tops. But of course, the US got it at the end of the day. But we also saw Nigerian athletes, for example, competing for the US, for the UK, for Germany, for Bahrain.
And we won medals. We won the diaspora medals too. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything like that?
Whatever it is.
I'm sorry. We have to talk, because what's the option you have? So are we really a sporting nation? That's the point I want to ask. Because you said, let's be honest with ourselves. Are we a sporting nation at the heart of it? Or we just have bright sparks here and there, but this is not made for us? Maybe we should focus on other things and not spend money on this.
Guys, we are over 200 million in this country.
It doesn't really mean.
Yeah, of course. It's just like saying that because we have a lot of people in the riverine areas means we should be winning gold medals. Right? No, it doesn't work that way. But we are a sporting nation, but we don't love sport. We don't love it with all of our heart.
How does that work?
Investment. Look at China. I mean, China have made table tennis their life, but ping pong started in Japan.
Do we have money to invest in sports?
We have money. 9 billion. Do you know what 9 billion is in dollars? That's a lot of money. How much is the budget for science and technology, the ministry? We have money in this country. If you could allocate 9 billion naira for the Olympics, then that means you've got money, because convert that to dollars, that's a whole lot of money.
$5 million.
But that money, are we spending it well? That is the question. This country is rich. Forget all of the old austerity, whatever. This country is rich. If you can allocate that sum, we are just not expending it really, really well. We are not investing where we should be investing. You mentioned youth. One of the only positive I'll take from these games is that the core of Team Nigeria is a young core. Look at our athletics team. Sam Ogazi, Favour Fili. They're going to come back in the late 2028. I don't know if they're going to come back stronger. I hope they do. But it's a very young core. Look at other sports as well. But we need them to get younger. The Americans had a 16-year-old win a gold medal. I think it's Quincy Wilson or something like that. He's going back to high school in 2 weeks. He tweeted about it. He's starting high school. Do we have people in that mode? No. Before the Olympics, I think 2-3 weeks before, our table tennis team under 16 or so, we're supposed to go to Botswana, Gaborone. But because they said there's no funds, we could not take them to. Those are players that could sow the seeds for the next Aruna Quadri. Last few months ago, we hosted the WTT contender. The prize money was $80,000 in Lagos here, table tennis. But we cannot afford to send under 17 boys to Gaborone. That WTT contender I'm telling you about, the Chinese contingent brought 15-year-olds. Yeah, I was there. They brought 15, 16-year-olds. But trust me, in the next Olympics, these 16-year-olds will be the ones beating our country once again, who will be at that games again. At probably 41 or 42.
Don't you think Aruna should just bow out at this point?
If you're good enough, you can play anywhere. He's still Nigeria's best player. He's world number 19 for a reason.
Yeah.
So he should be there. Cheikhou Touré played into his 40s in the Olympics. He played 7 Olympics in table tennis. So why can't if Aruna is good enough, then he should. But the truth of the matter is, have we created a system to have players who can better Aruna Quadri? We're not.
He talked about, the minister yet again in his statement talked about, after the preparations there were complaints about some selection, and he attempted to question it, but it was resisted. What do you think he meant by that statement? in terms of coaches and athletes?
What it means is that it's not in charge. It means that it's just ministered by the name. Because if you know these things and you cannot effect change, then of what use?
Wouldn't they be saying it's interfering in sports affairs, which is against?
No, of course, that is. But you also need to be able to have put a machinery in charge to ensure that, enforce that, to ensure that all of these things don't happen. I mean, there are cases of even athletes who were not fit enough, who went to these Olympic Games.
Okay, let's begin to look at it like this. Let's assume we're sitting with the minister or the ministry at the end of the day, and we're doing analytics, a simple analytics. 2012, no medal. 2016, I think 1 medal.
Yeah.
2020, 2 medals.
2, yeah.
2 medals, 1 gold, 1 bronze. All of it, 2 bronze, 1 silver, 2 bronze in 2016 and 2020. And 2024, no medal. So in 4 Olympics, we've had 4 medals. That means 1 Olympic per year by average.
Yeah.
What does that say to a population of 200 million people that are super talented? When you compare that to my classic example, St. Lucia coming to the Olympics with 4 people, 1 woman, she got them 1 gold, 1 silver in one of the prime sports. And I'm sure they spent way less than we did.
What I can speak to that, say to that is, we are discovering talents. Eshe Brome, Presina Ochonogo were discovered from grassroots tournaments. Yeah. We are discovering them, but we are not harnessing them enough. They are 2 different things. I remember this edition of the National Sports Festival a few years ago. We discovered a very young gymnast. She was from, I think, Imo, Anambra State. Where is that girl right now? These are questions we should be asking. We discovered her, but we are not harnessing. And we still have more and more and more of that. We have more of those talents. But the government, first of all, I even think that the government has to even strip its hand off sports, partially. Maybe not fully, because government cannot single-handedly, even in Great Britain, the government is still very much involved. But government has to encourage private Nigeria to come in and invest.
Because when you look at the Olympics that just played out, a lot of the funding was actually gotten from the private sector.
Yes. It came from private sector. So that's what we're getting wrong. We're not involving the private sector enough, because the private sector will be the ones who will be able to invest properly. I mean, at a point in time, we had this policy called Adopt an Athlete.
Yeah, that was during Sunday Darius period.
I know that they were against that, but we didn't sustain it.
I go back to the question I asked about whether or not we're a sporting nation. I just saw a tweet that's all referred to, when people would rather stay around the games village, taking drinks rather than buy tickets to go watch the match. And in reference to the part where you said we're a sporting nation, but we don't love sports. I think you said that. This is what I mean. We focus on the talent, which is good, but we don't pay as much attention to the infrastructure. Every community in Nigeria should have, at least, if you don't have a field, you should have a basketball court. You should have a semblance of a sport. I'm not talking about sand. I'm talking about something that looks like standard.
Yeah.
That every child growing up. I mean, one of the users, Jeffrey, when we were reading the comments, said, well, he's now inspired to get his child to start training so that Nigeria, at least in a few years, will get to win medals. But my question is, where will the child train? So when I ask, are we a sporting nation? Is it ingrained in our DNA? I mean, you have estates that designate an area for sports.
Yeah.
And after a while, you see that they've erected duplexes there. And you see schools that are meant to have at least a semblance of a sporting area. It's just story building. The children can't even run along the hallway because it's too tight. Talk more about a field. So are we really a sporting nation when you think about the infrastructure? It's not ingrained in our DNA.
There's an infrastructure deficit in Nigeria, a massive deficit. If you take Lagos as an example, there's a massive deficit. I'll give you a very small example. We have about 4 stadiums in Lagos, right? Yeah, Agege, we have Onikon, that's Mobolaji, we have Teslim, and we have the National Stadium, which is not a Lagos State government property though. But out of all of these stadiums right now, only one is working perfectly, and that's the Mobolaji Johnson. And that, if he could speak, will be saying that, see, I'm dead, because that's been overused. Agege Stadium has been in comatose or has been closed since COVID, with the promise from the government that, hey, we just want to do some renovations. It has been that way since 2020.
And no game has been played there?
Nothing. All you have there is on weekends, people just
Teslim?
coming. Teslim also has been, not operating, for about a year now.
So if that is Lagos, you wonder what's happening in other
Exactly.
states.
So there is a massive, I think it was Germany. Yeah, it was Germany. I think they failed to go to 94, something like the World Cup. And the government declared like a state of emergency and brought their sporting legends, everybody together. Fun fact, Ghana Troll, our former coach, was part of that whole thing. And they designed the policy that ensured that in about 10 kilometers from every 10 kilometers, there's a sporting facility. They did it for football, everything. They invested it in their sport. And years later, they won the World Cup. Years later, they're world champions. I think they're current world champions in basketball. Look at Tunisia. Tunisia also investing. Tunisia have completed sports. In fact, they're like defending champions almost all of the sports on the continent right now. We are not deliberate in those infrastructures. We are not building enough. Because see, before we can start thinking about winning a gold medal, trust me, our first gold medal, I think, after the ones we've won, our next gold medal is going to come from an athlete that we discovered from here, from the grassroots. You cannot ignore the grassroots. What happened to our Youth Sports Federation of the Youth Fund? What happened to our Ibile Games in Lagos? It is from the grassroots. But like I said, you can even develop them from the grassroots. But do you have this infrastructure to harness them?
Okay, yes. You have the grass that you play on. Okay,
this is where you miss village school. I schooled both the city and the village. And I know that in the village, you have this expanse of land. In fact, when you mess up, it's part of your punishment to cause. When your labor master, that's what they call it then. Labor master will say, cut like this, and then you start crying because you know your destination is not in sight. So I guess that's what we're saying. But let's talk about the issue of the Paralympians. They are going, I think, 28th of August. If result is important, I think we should split this funding. Don't you think we should split this funding from the Olympians, from the Paralympians, and give the Paralympians more money?
Because they get results,
They get more results. For us, 2012 that went to the Olympics, abysmal performance, 4 billion we spent in the Olympics in London. We didn't come back with even earth medal. We have repeated that feat again. And I'm almost confident that these Paralympians will make us, I don't know whether it's a failure of these guys that makes them do well, or they are naturally just good. So shouldn't we review the funding model? Because if we're talking about medals, why can't we give them more money, or at least some?
We've always talked about, we've had this conversation a lot of times, but the government doesn't see it that way. The sports ministry doesn't see it that way. Maybe the numbers game also doesn't help them because we've got with 88 athletes, we've got with different politicians. Politicians also have got with their peers. Everybody has, it's a massive jamboree. So you can understand why 9 billion was allocated to them. And trust me, with the Paralympians, I would like to see if the minister will be doing his daily press conferences that he's been doing in Paris with the Paralympians. Because apparently our sports minister loves the headlines because it's been the only channel of information. Which shouldn't even be. If you have a good process, you have the minister. I was speaking to Dejomoto Imbu, who is a senior colleague of mine, is in Paris, and he said a lot of his colleagues don't even know who their sports minister is.
They should Google it. They should check on Google.
But it speaks to the fact that everything is running smoothly.
I think Choma Ajunwa, our gold medalist at 1996 long jump. She was even saying yesterday, I think on the stage, on one of our programs here yesterday, I saw on the internet, where she said some ministry staff, some don't even know who she is.
Yeah, of course.
They should Google it. Final question, Wale.
She goes there, they don't know her.
And this is a departure from a conversation, but it's still related.
Okay.
For the Super Eagles, Harvey Reynard, who are you priming for the next Super Eagles coach? Oh, you're not even impressed again.
Maybe I should Google that too. But I'm hearing from the NFF that this week a new coach is going to emerge. But is Harvey Reynard in the mix? I don't know.
Can we afford Harvey Reynard?
We can't. We are still owing, what's his name?
Poseyano Raw.
Pesaro, and we're still owing them. So you can't have, the guy comes pricey. He's a very pricey guy. Okay. So maybe if they can get some private sponsors, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Harvey Reynard will be nice to have.
It'll be nice to have. And it's been nice having you. Well, Edigun, sports journalist, thank you so much for your time. I'm glad we're talking about this. Hopefully, things will change, but thank you.
Things won't change. We'll be here in 2027, 2028, and we'll be having scholarship by the grace of God. Yeah,
well, hopefully things will change.
The only thing you leave a man with is hope. So.
Particularly when he's renewed hope. Well, let's take feedback, Jeffrey.
All right, so let's take a few thoughts from you. But Wale Moss, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the program. As always, we'll reach out to you. But be optimistic. Let's have hope. That's the only thing we have. Hope. Let's keep it alive. Thank you, Wale. All right, so let's bring you some of the thoughts you've been sharing on WhatsApp. Let's start with Chief Alexander from Alausa on Paralympics Games outing. You said Nigeria's getting medals for other countries shows that we have the talent, but we fail to develop them in the country. Hence, countries do the needful and get results with our human resources. Sad enough, we know this, but don't learn from our mistakes.
And Tunde Omo from Ekpe has this to say: the Paris Olympics, Tunde Omo from Ekpe, pardon me, the Paris Olympics has come and gone. Unfortunately, no single medal was won by Team Nigeria, which has happened in the consecutive Olympics. The implications is that we are doing the same things and expecting different results. And those are the comments from Tunde from Ekpe.
All right, away from sports, we also have an update from the city of Port Harcourt, where we understand that an explosive device appears to have detonated at the Secretariat of the Action People's Party in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. You can see the visuals there. The explosion, which reportedly occurred at midnight, shattered the glass on the window near the impacted area. The Rivers State Police Command has deployed 2 security vehicles and personnel to the scene. Routine activities are also going on smoothly within the area.
Well, there you have it. We'll bring you more updates as soon as we have it from our development story. But we have to anchor at this point, but not to worry. There's so much more for you coming up next on Sunrise Daily. I'm Kayode Okikiola.
And I'm Jeff Rose. I'm going to have a good day.